Hey, this is your host, Rick Houston. Before we get down to business in this week's episode, how about hitting those subscribe, like, and notification buttons? With all that out of the way, let's get on with the show.
So I have my own automotive electrical business in Junior. Jeff, my brother, was working for Junior Johnson. They were down at testing at Daytona. I think they were running Buicks at the time, switching over to the Chevrolets the next year for Pepsi. And they were having electrical problems. And they had these engineers and stuff. And Jeff just walked over to Junior. He said, "Hey, I got a friend at home who fix this car." And they said, "Well, we got these engineers here. If they can't fix it, what do you think he knows that they don't know?" So got around lunchtime and Jeff called me on the phone. He said, "Hey, we're having a problem." I said, "Oh, what is it?" Told me. I said, "Well, I'm going to give you 4 things to do. Do them in the order I say do it in. And each time, let me know. Call me and tell me what the next move is." So he called me back in about an hour and a half. And he said, "Junior wants you to come talk to him at the shop." Honestly, that's how it all started. So I go up and talk to Junior. And he said, "I want you to go to work for me." I said, "Well, Junior, I got 8 employees. I borrowed all this money to do this business. And I just can't do that." I said, "But I'd like to help when I can." And he said, "Well, can you rewire all of my cars?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll come up here at night and I'll come up here on the weekends when I'm not racing myself and do the work for you." So that's how it all got started. And he talked me into starting going. So I started going to races with him on the weekends. He said, "You're a big old boy. You're strong. You probably do this pit crew thing." So I did try it out for the pit crew thing and made it. And then when they started the 12 team, he said, I want you to be part of that team." And I said, "Well, remember I told you, Junior?" He said, "Well, just how much money would it take?" And I gave him a number and he said, "I'll see you at work on Monday." So I took one of the guys who was working for me, who really started when I started, and he ran it for 3 years. And then I decided it wasn't worth it to try to do it all. So I put the business up and sold it. Sold it to the first person that come and talk to me about it.
Wow.
Yeah. Matter of fact, the guy had actually gone. His son was in Nashville Auto Diesel School and was graduating that year. And he was, electrical was his forte.
Yeah.
So it just, things happen at the right time. And it has for me in life. You can say lucky or whatever, but you create your own luck by the decisions you make.
Yeah.
And so I made some good decisions, and I've made a lot of bad decisions too.
Yeah.
But that's how all that stuff got started. That's how I got involved in racing, and then, worked there at Juniors for 5 years, and then moved on to crew chief for Michael.
Yeah, we'll get to all that.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get to all that. When you were bouncing around at Metrolina and Concord and all that, what years would that have been?
That'd have been 70, 71, 72.
Okay.
Yeah, early time. I was a little boy, young boy, but I was very mechanically inclined. I'm not trying to toot my own whistle.
Right. Yeah.
But facts are facts.
Yeah.
I got facts to back it up. I can remember standing on the trailer on the way to Concord on Friday night, adjusting the valves on the motor we had just put in the car. And instead of because Mr. Fitzpatrick was like me, we didn't like to be late for nothing. Get there, get a good parking spot. Standing on the running boards of that trailer going down Highway 73, adjusting the valves on that motor. So when we got to the track, we was ready to go.
All right. So if you're there during that time frame, or come into contact with Dale Sr.
There's a lot of ties with Dale Sr. My ex-father-in-law, Gray London. You never hear much about Gray, and that really surprised me because Gray gave Dale let me back this up a minute. Gray owned 2 businesses, very successful, a lot of stress. So his doctor told him he needed to get involved in something where he had an outlet to take his mind off his businesses. So he goes to Ralph, because he was from Kannapolis. He goes to Ralph, "So I want you to build me 2 race cars. I want one for Friday night, and for record, I want one to run Saturday, Metrolina." So he did, and Dale was his crew chief. I have a picture on my phone of his car. He had a 55 Chevrolet, and on the right front fender, it says Dale Earnhardt, crew chief, Randy and Danny, crew members. He paid them each $100 a week for 10 months out of the year because the 2 months they didn't race, he wouldn't pay them. It was funny. But when Ralph passed away, Dale wanted to always run asphalt. Ralph didn't want him to. He went to Harry Gant, Gray London, and bought a car from Harry Gant, asphalt car, and put Dale in his first car. That's when Rod Osterlund came out here and took Dale away from that deal.
Yeah.
Gray goes to the shop one day that they had their little shop they had rented over and walked in the door and everything was gone. Even the airline's off the wall. Dale and Randy and Danny had stripped the building out and went on to Osterman's. Those are the things I've never heard very many people say much about it, but I've heard a couple of people mention Gray's name during the thing. Gray passed away a few years ago. Good man. He was an awesome dude.
So was it their contention that they owned it, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But Gray funded all of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who was the Dale Earnhardt that you knew back then?
Well, he changed a little bit. See, Dale and I always had a little personal thing there because Gray's daughter, I ended up marrying Gray's daughter. Well, she rode his school bus, and Dale was 5 years older than I. But we always picked back and forth and stuff. And, I guess because I was a big boy at a young age, he liked to pick. He liked to grab you around the head and wrestle.
Even then.
Oh yeah,
okay.
he hadn't changed much in that.
Yeah.
But and I'll say it because I am. His neck was a little redder back in those days. Yeah.
You don't say.
We always used to say we'd go to a fight and the race broke out.
Yeah.
Sometimes at Concord at pay window, that's the way it was. But I even know his daughter, when she ran there, they would get in fights, and that's on up into the 80s, 90s. Yeah. So it's that tradition hadn't changed.
So you have fought Dale Earnhardt?
Oh, not fought him. We just picked.
Oh, come on.
Oh, well, if I'd have fought him, I'd have whooped his butt so bad. Let's just say we had a mutual agreement. I respected the man's ability driving a race car.
Yeah.
Because, you hear all this stuff nowadays comparing him to others, but you can't compare these younger guys to him. There's no way, because the equipment they're running with compared to the stuff he had, he ain't even close. They cannot do even with the equipment they got today and the knowledge, what he could do with a race car with less. Yeah.
Now, were you driving back then, or
No,
did that come later?
That come later.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I never drove dirt, but once or twice just to play.
Right.
Didn't like it. I always said dirt's for growing potatoes and asphalt's for racing. But I do like to watch the dirt races.
So you wound up going to work for Junior.
Yeah.
You worked, I guess, part-time?
Part-time to start with, and then went full-time when I sold my.
All right. When did you sell the team when did you sell your business and go full-time?
When the 12 operation started up.
Okay, so 84.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a good Junior Johnson story that nobody knows.
Oh, I'll tell you one. Because I get asked a lot. The last place I worked, the general manager asked me, and I knew he thought I was going to say our owner.
Yeah.
He goes, Bill, he said, we were standing at Bristol, and it was raining. I'll never forget it. He goes, and the owner's standing there. He's from California. But he's there at Bristol, and it's raining. And he goes, Bill, he said, who's the best team owner you ever worked for? I said, Junior Johnson. He kind of looked surprised, and I said, I'll tell you why. He goes, well, why? I said, because in October of every year, Junior would come to you, and he'd say, hey, guys, we got $300,000 left in the budget. Is there anything we need to make our race cars better? Parts, equipment, people, whatever it is, you tell me, let's spend this money on that. I said, in return, all you new owners come up to me in October and go, hey, it's October, we're getting near winter, we need to lay about 15 people off. There's your difference. He was a racer. And they're like, well, do we need to buy these chassis? Do we need to do this? Do we need that? And Junior wasn't that way. He was like, whatever it takes to make, he was a racer. Whatever takes to make the race car go, let's go that route. That's honestly my best story about Junior. And I probably got some funny ones where he used to get the mules out and plow and all that stuff, and hit them in the head.
Yeah.
Then he would hook his old International Scout to him if they got to pulling too hard on him. He would get a chain, hook his International Scout to it, and make the mules pull him and the Scout. Yeah. He was a character.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I would say. I was because I've always been an early riser. I've always believed I had a good work ethic. I would get there around 6 o'clock in the morning up in Wilkesboro, and I lived in Salisbury at the time. And I would be the first person there. Junior would bring me down a couple of sausage biscuits. And the other guys would start coming in later, and they'd go, whose sausage biscuits? Mine. Where'd you get that? I said, Junior brought it down to me. So he would bring his dogs in there, and so I was in there one day, and some of the guys said, Junior, how come you don't bring us? He said, the man lives the furthest away from anybody here, and he's the first one here. That's why he gets a biscuit. I love Junior Johnson. He was so smart. People, I love the way a lot of people thought about him. Now, the people in the sport knew he was a very smart man, very intelligent mechanically, coming up with new ideas and all that. But I just loved his demeanor. Yeah.
So your first full-time year there, 84, that was also the year that Neil Bonnet came on board as a teammate, a two-car team. And you were telling me that you essentially worked on both cars.
I worked on both cars. Well, I did electrical work on everybody. See, people would say I work for the 12 car, I work for the 11 car. I said I work for Junior Johnson and Associates. Whatever Junior wants me to do. If he wants me to go up on the hill and pick rocks up off of his property, I'll go do it. If he wants me to plow with the mules, I'll plow with the mules. I work for the man. Whatever he needs, I'll do it. So I didn't separate myself. So when that 11 car won, I felt like I was part of the winning team. And same way with the 12, because I wired all the cars. And if I was caught up on the stuff I needed to do at the 12 shop, which I did fabricating as well, and the electrical, but if they were running behind up at the 11, which they typically always were, a lot of them crew chiefs in the sport have no organizational skills, whatsoever. Even some of the successful ones, they don't have any organizational skills. So they run behind up there. I would go up there and work, and I would stay late where our 12 guy, a lot of 12 guys would go home. I would stay late if the 11 guys were working and help them work, because that is the way I grew up. That was my work ethic. You work for a team, you work for a team.
Yeah.
So
there was definitely, though, from what I understand, there was a little bit of a rivalry between the two teams. They were on separate sides of the creek. And you did have some characters involved. That's a nice way to say. That's a nice way to say there were some egos involved. There was team Jeff. There was team Brewer.
Yeah.
How difficult was it to stay out of that if you were working for both teams?
Can I be honest?
Well, I'd like you to be.
I stayed out of it because of my size, and they knew I could fight. I would have been willing to join either one of them on the bridge anytime. And I used to say that to Junior. I used to say, Junior, you need to put Jeff and Tim on that bridge out there. It goes across the creek. Put a rope on each end of it and say, the one that comes out the other side can have all the say, because they both wanted it. But here's the thing. The sport's full of egos. It's always been full of egos. That's what makes you a good football players, basketball players, baseball players. To me, that's what makes you a good athlete. You got to have a little bit of ego about you to say, I'm the best. And you got to believe in yourself to be the best. But at the same time, if you're working on a team, I think you need to be team first. And always, you're no better than the people you surround yourself with. And if you set a bad example for them, then that's what you're going to have. So there's where your tension you've heard about come between team players. I never had any tension. I didn't, and it was because, I don't know. I mean, it sounds terrible for me to say that, but I'm 67 years old. I can say it. If you wanted to rattle my cage, I would rattle yours. I was scared of nobody, nothing. I can remember, here we go, Junior Johnson's story. We're on Martinsville. We won the Martinsville race with Darrell. So, they used to tear you down on Victory Lane, right out on the racetrack. So there's heckler coming over. He kept heckling Junior, and I'm under the hood. I'm helping J.B. Range take the engine part. And Junior, this guy kept hollering at Junior. You stand over the fence, but he was on inside of the racetrack, but he was standing against the gate there. And Junior said, Ingle, go knock him out. I crawled out from that fence and started. The guy ran down to turn one. He cleared that fence. He cleared that fence like an orangutan monkey. I got the NASCAR officials were all dying laugh because Junior said, "Go knock him out." I said, "That's what he wants. I'll do it."
All right. So you're 67 years old. You don't mind taking care of business even now?
Even now.
Listen, if I ask you a question you don't like, you don't have to answer it, man. Okay? Let's just get that straight. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I agree. But see, that's the thing. I love to fight.
I don't. All right. So you love to fight. You said that they knew that you could fight.
That I would.
How did they know that you could fight?
Because they'd seen me a couple times at the racetrack. I put a couple people in the hospital. Yeah. After qualifying once at Martinsville, Pete Wright and I were walking out, and Pete had taken a case of Budweiser beer off of the truck, and we were walking up the side road, and from the racetrack. We parked out there on
I know you ain't
220.
I know you ain't going to say you fought Pete Wright.
No, me and Pete were buddies.
Okay,
so
okay, because I might have to get my back up if you got.
I hear you.
If you got sideways with Pete.
No, Pete's a good guy.
Yeah,
good guy. So anyway, we're walking up through there, and this carload of guys kept coming. As you're walking, you're making time, and they're stopped moving in traffic, and they said a few choice words to us. And Junior had always told us, try to avoid as much as you can. So I let it go. Come by again, and they swerved over at us with the car, almost caught us with the bumper. I let that go. Third time, when they drove up, the guy had his hand sticking out the window, giving me what he thought of me being number one. So I just took off running. And you can ask Leonard Wood, because Leonard Wood was right behind us. He was in his van. He saw it all happen. I ran up, and I grabbed that guy by his finger, and I put his finger back on his forearm. So by that time, the traffic had cleared in front of him, and the driver sped off. So anyway, I get back to the place where we're staying there in Martinsville about an hour and a half later, get a phone call. Junior, Ingle. I said, yes, sir. He said, did you get an altercation leaving the racetrack today? I said, yes, sir. Sure did. He said, okay, I figured it was you when they... He said, I'll see you at the racetrack. And that's all was said. Come to the racetrack, didn't say a word. We ran our race, went home. He come up to me on Monday at the shop, and he goes, I want to ask you a question. I said, yes, sir. He said, if that ever happens again, what would you do different? I said, nothing. He said, that's what I wanted to hear, except for one thing. From now on, when that happens, take my shirt off. Don't have the sponsor involved in it. Let's take the sponsor out of the equation.
Yeah.
And, but you take care of business.
Now, how did you get that? How did you get that?
I was a boxer when I was young.
Okay.
I boxed Golden Glove.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I boxed Golden Glove.
Okay.
And, but I think I've always had a good personality. I like to smile and laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you poke a bear, you better be ready.